Alright, so this video is 4 years overdue, but let me tell you about the story of when I asked my darling wife to go on a 40-mile backpacking trip across Catalina Island for my birthday, which, I'll have you know, is a desert island. What she didn't know at the time was that this trip I had planned was to ask her to be my wife. To get to the island, you have to take a ferry. The channel is around 20 miles, so it takes about an hour to get to the island. We left through the San Pedro port and headed towards Avalon. When we landed in Avalon, we walked through the town and headed towards the trailhead passing the golf course. There's a campsite called Hermit Gulch that you can stay at, but we decided to bypass this for the first day and headed straight to Blackjack Campground. This meant that on our first day we had to hike around 11 miles and go about 1,300 feet in elevation. I forgot to mention that this was just Arpi's second backpacking trip ever, and I hadn't been backpacking in a couple of years. So we overpacked, packed inefficiently, and just overall had a lot of room for improvement. Sadly, Arpi got some massive blisters from her boots in the first day's ascent. In hindsight, we should have called it and stayed in Avalon, but this beautiful lady of mine is just so headstrong and insisted we carry on, which we did, but at a much slower pace. This would make our days longer and give us less time at the subsequent campsites. After the first day, we carried on, and the plan was to skip Little Harbors and go directly to Two Harbors. This meant we had another 13-mile day ahead of us. On the way to the Little Harbors, we got to eat at a restaurant and refuel on water and snack. Restaurants and things like this along the trail made it so that we didn't have to pack as much food, which was nice, and it made the trip more enjoyable overall. On the second day, we definitely bit off more than we could chew, but we had site reservations at Two Harbors and we had to get on, so we just put one foot in front of the other until we made it. With Arpi's heels the way that they were, I knew that we couldn't take her to Silver Peak, which is on the western part of the island. It's kind of a brutal hike, to be honest, but at the summit you're above the clouds, and I thought it'd be an amazing proposal spot. So instead I just kept a watchful eye out for anywhere on the trail with a breathtaking view, and eventually I found a spot before we reached Little Harbor. This moment made the whole trip so memorable and so worth it. After I asked the love of my life to spend the rest of our days together, we took a small break in Little Harbor. After this point in our trip, the filming became more scarce because I was just drained, and I'd already done what I planned to do on this trip. I had asked my best friend to marry me. The hike to Two Harbors from Little Harbor was absolutely brutal. We went from sea level to almost 1,300 feet and then back down to sea level. And we already had about 8 miles under our belt that day. And at this stage, Arpi had like legit wounds on her heels. So whenever I could, I decided to carry her bag just to help her out. When we got into Two Harbors, it was late and we got there just in time before the restaurants closed. We were covered in dirt, smelling from a long hike, eating with our backpacks right next to us at the table, around a bunch of people who actually owned yachts in the bay. The dichotomy was real. That night, we spent so much money because we had hardly eaten all day and we were celebrating our proposal. We must have looked like a couple goons. The next day, we packed up and hiked the west end of the island. At this point, I was on island time. I wasn't recording at all, but we did get to do some paddleboarding, which was pretty amazing. I have such fond memories of this trip, and it is one Arpi and I want to redo. I think the plan is to go back and do it better. Really, I just want to be on an island with my best friend, just hiking and talking for hours. Thanks for watching. Here's to another memory in the outdoor log. Peace.